Here we go. Can you guys hear me now? YouTube, for people on there, can you guys hear me? No, maybe. Hey, what's up? Instagram can hear me. Can't hear anything. Oh, that sucks. Okay, let me try stopping the stream and then bringing it back. Let me also settings, audio. Yes, awesome. All right, I think everybody can hear us. What's up? Hey, Adam says, what are my thoughts on Barclays? What specifically about Barclays are you asking? Hey, cool Amp, how you doing? Hey, everybody. Daniel was asking how early should we network? I think you could network as early as you feel comfortable. I mean, I think the earlier you start practicing talking to people, the better, and building relationships. You know, if you're a freshman in high school, it's super awkward, right? I don't think you should definitely not be asking for any internships or anything like that. But maybe by like your junior year in high school, even just learning about the industry is always helpful. Learning about the different options you have and what might be a good fit for your personality. I think obviously even when you're in college, you're still learning about yourself a lot. So it's tough to say how early you should network. But if you're comfortable and you can hold yourself professionally, I think as early as, late high school, you can start doing that. I think it helps if you aren't too young and you can look a little more mature. Not that you have to have a gray beard like me, but if you can be a little more mature, it makes it a little less awkward. If you look like you're 12 years old, it's a little bit harder to get in front of people. Hey, Sunny's asking, is TSM a buy? Thinking of selling NVIDIA, had a great run. Hey, Sunny, I think it's really tough. Speaking of what stocks to buy, probably a good time to announce WSO Alpha is now live on the site. If for the Instagram people that are curious what that is, you can check it out on my YouTube live stream right now. I have it up on my screen. Basically, what we're doing is sharing not a mock portfolio, but actually a real portfolio that's had over 20% returns for the last 9.5 years, annualized average. And so we're just sharing me and the team kind of our picks in terms of how we're trading the markets right now. It's actually an incredibly tough time. Your thing on NVIDIA and just it's an incredibly tough time to know where to put your money, just because there is literally the valuations are so stretched, but at the same time we have such free money from the Fed, and who knows how long they're going to keep printing. So you don't want to necessarily miss another huge run up. And people have been saying we've been overextended since 2016, 17. So you would have missed out on huge gains had you been on the sidelines. So I think it's super tough to know exactly what and where you should be. So you really should just be in the best companies you can be in long term. So that's kind of, we have an aggressive portfolio that you can now follow with WSO Alpha. We have premium research you can get in there and you can check it out for free. There's a 14-day free trial in there. So feel free to kind of check it out, see if it's a good match for kind of your style. But nobody should be following this portfolio if they're trying to retire in the next 10 years. Let's put it that way, because it is very aggressive. And you can see that based on our the risk return profile we've had over the last almost decade. So yeah, and then the cool part about this is we actually share monthly brokerage reports. Since this is an actual portfolio, we publicly share our losses and our gains every month. So that's kind of fun. You can see we had a huge June, but May we were down slightly. And you can actually go back and look at over 100 monthly brokerage reports, since we have, like I said, almost a decade of track record. So you can see where we were kind of making our big gains and when we were down. And how we navigated the COVID crash, which was kind of interesting looking at these monthly portfolios. Let's see what's going on here. JP Morgan's currently at 65,000 British pounds fixed in London. Not bad. Base salaries on the rise, everybody. I don't know if you saw the Financial Times mentioned Wall Street Oasis and some of the pay statistics, which was pretty cool. Hey, Damon. Good question. He asks, Damon Fan asks, is also wondering how important it is to know about economic trends like changes in CPI, bond yields, interest rates, and all of that. If so, is it important we have an opinion on them? I assume this is for interviews, Damon. I would say you should definitely know the general trends of like CPI inflation picking up, bond yields. It's good to know where they are. Probably more important if you're interviewing for like a sales and trading role. But I've heard of banking front office interviews asking like random questions like that. So it's always a good idea to just have an idea of where they are. In terms of opinion on them, it's not like you have to have like a super strong opinion in one direction or another, but you can. I think it's good to be able to talk about changes in CPI, how that can impact and put the Fed in a tough spot if inflation starts picking up, and how they're maybe forced to raise rates to kind of curb that inflation, and then how that could impact the overall broader stock market, but also the broader economy in terms of raising borrowing rates. So you can talk about that. I think if you have a general good sense of macroeconomics and how interest rates can help tame price or tame inflation, and how that can lead to a down cycle if especially if the economy's not growing, then I think that's typically about what they're looking for is, can you think through the cycle and how interest rates play on inflation, and do you understand those kind of links or those connections? Let's see what else we got here. I'm looking at Instagram. Do you think it's better to join a product or coverage group? Hey, yeah, I mean, it totally depends on the bank. I would just go wherever the most deal flow is. Steve asks, hey, Patrick, what's the best way to get on the Monkey to Millions series? I'm in desperate need of your guidance and motivation it brings about. Hey, Steve, it's tough to get on Monkey to Millions just because I'm already slammed with so many other projects running WSO, but we do have ways to get help through WSO Mentors. I'll show it to you here. I'll pull up WSO Mentors so you can get a look at all the mentors we have. And, let's say you have a investment banking interview coming up and you want to talk with somebody that's a senior mentor, maybe in Asia, or maybe you want to go to somebody just in the Americas. You can get a sense and you can rank people. You can sort people by ranking or by sessions, just to get an idea of who would be a good kind of person to get a mock interview with. But yeah, this is the mentor sessions are, I tend to recommend them kind of when you already have an interview locked down and you're trying to kind of get that final polish, and you've already done a bunch of mock interviews with your friends. Because friends, it's obviously free. With this, it does cost a little bit. So, but I think it's good to get an actual professional that's not like related to you or not your friend to give you an honest opinion of how you're performing. So if you are in need of guidance or motivation or anything, sometimes just having a mentor through our program can be helpful as well. By the way, this is like the worst part of WSO in terms of business. It's low margin for us because these people are super expensive to hire, but it's more done. We keep it up here just because people that do use it love it. So that's just an aside. Let's see what else is going on. Rising sophomore here. What advice do I have at landing a bulge bracket IB internship for next summer? Hey, Mark. I would say make sure you're at a target school. Just kidding. Yeah, if you're not at a target school, you better be networking really aggressively. Even if you are at a target school, you better be, going to all the information sessions, shaking hands, trying not to act too desperate and too needy. But just, building some relationships and thanking people, trying to make sure that you're at least your resume's picked out from the pile for an interview. I mean, I think that's the hard one. Even just getting that initial interview is tough. If you have a high GPA, keep your GPA up. Yeah, and just make sure you're talking to as many people at the specific bulge brackets you want to land at. I think a lot of people sell the Elite Boutique short still. Everyone's still kind of obsessed with bulge bracket or bust. I think it's a huge mistake, but to each their own. What else can I show you guys here? So yeah, WSO Alpha, we've kind of done a soft launch on the site now. It's live. Again, you can see all of our trades here. Anybody who's on this, if you can hit the like or whatever. If you're on YouTube, hit the like. If you're on Instagram, I don't know what that is, since I'm a boomer. Not quite a boomer. Let's see what else we got here. KS, is it possible to move a real estate private equity to traditional private equity? I think it's going to be tough. Yeah, it's definitely possible. I never say nothing's impossible if you know the right people and actually network aggressively enough. I think for real estate private equity, oftentimes the underlying asset's just different, right? So you need to be able to show that you understand a traditional LBO and how that plays out in most operating models. But it's not like LBO modeling is incredibly tough once you just have to. The problem is not how hard it is to do the LBO model. The real tough part is just the competition you're going up against, because you're up against bankers. I mean, if you're trying to go traditional private equity, I think it'd be helpful maybe if it was like somewhat related to real estate, maybe like infrastructure or like asset heavy type PE might be helpful, because at least it's somewhat related to real estate. How do you answer the why you question in interviews? Oh, that's easy. That's just like a opening to say what your strengths are. It's the same exact group of questions. So why you is just an opening of what your strengths are. But remember, to be really good at why you and what are your strengths, it's really bad just to list out your strengths. It's much better to show. So don't tell them, show them. So meaning, instead of saying I'm a really hard worker and I'm good at multitasking and blah blah blah, I'm a great team player. So much better to say, I do think I have a very high work ethic because while doing classes, I also manage this, and this, and I managed to keep my GPA up, and I managed to be captain of the XYZ sports team or president of this club, which took about 15 hours a week, and kind of explain how you can. Better to show through examples and let that lead that to tell your stories, rather than it being just a simple answer of these are my strengths, period. That's the same thing with like weaknesses or any other kind of like challenge questions around, tell me about a time you struggled with XYZ, stuff like that. So how do you differentiate yourself from others who have the same strengths? Good question. I think you differentiate yourself by how genuine you are when you're actually delivering the answer, how good your stories are. So are you saying you're a hard worker, but then your GPA is really low and you actually weren't involved in any extracurriculars? It's kind of hard to say you're a hard worker, but then not have it backed up with good stories. If you're saying, hey, I was working part-time, putting myself through school, I maintained a high GPA, I was involved in these two clubs, one that took 15 hours a week, another one took 10 hours a week. So I'm already used to the 80, 90 hour weeks that I'd expect in this role. That's a really strong answer versus something if you're not involved, if you're not, doing a job or you don't have a lot of extracurriculars, then it's going to be tough to differentiate yourself. So I think how good your story is and how much meat you actually have to back up those strengths and how much you're showing them instead of telling them is how you differentiate yourself. Also, just the eye contact. How likable do you seem? Is it overly braggadocious, or do you come across more as like a humble and you're just telling them kind of why you think you'd be a good fit for the role? I think all of that plays into how likable you are and if someone wants to actually give you an offer. Let's see here. Is it too late to land a bulge bracket investment banking internship for next summer as a sophomore? I think as a sophomore, yeah, the timings are super accelerated. I know if you look at Monkey to Millions series with Grace, you'll probably get a better idea on timing there, because she is already recruiting for her junior year summer. She's already locked up her sophomore year summer. I think that was like back late freshman year. It's crazy accelerated, but it depends on the bank and it depends on what program you're going through. So if you're through a diversity program or a female candidate, there's different programs at the banks that can be even more accelerated. And by the way, sophomores are not, it's very hard to get an internship. So don't feel like life is over if you don't get that sophomore internship. Just try to get anything you can that's somewhat related, and try to build up your resume. Here we go. Steve asks, we already answered that. Damon says, hey Patrick, what's the minimum amount of contacts we should have at a bulge bracket per se? Hey Damon, there's no minimum in terms of at a specific bulge bracket. I think what's more important is having a few meaningful conversations with somebody that actually wants to help you, versus having 20 conversations or even 50 connections at a specific bulge bracket doesn't mean anything if you have no actual relationship with anybody there. So remember, it's a relationship game. This is not a counting game of how many contacts we have, but how deep are the relationships? How good is the relationship? So think of it that way. So the only reason I say aggressively reach out and build connections with people is not to collect the number of contacts. It's because applying that broad net actually gives you the chance to get on phone conversations with a few of them, such that you do have a few strong connections at each bulge bracket, if that's your target. Let's see what else we got. Chow Mein says, any advice on how to balance an off-cycle internship with classes? I want to put most of my effort towards the internship, but wondering if it's okay if the GPA falls as a result. Great question, Chow. Wrong. Keep your GPA high. The off-cycle internship probably is unpaid or very low paid. Yes, you want to do well there, but the GPA comes first, because banks are lazy. People are lazy. They use the GPA as a proxy. So while it's great you're getting an off-cycle internship that's giving you that experience and you want to do well there, GPA should come first. Your exams should come first. Show that you have the diligence and you have the ability to balance your time to get a high grade. You know why? Because grades and GPA is the one number that everybody has on their resume. So as bad of a proxy as it is, you want it to be as high as possible on your resume so that it doesn't hold you back. So you're going to have that off-cycle internship on your resume either way, right? So why would you sacrifice your GPA to kind of slightly do better at the internship? Ideally, you can do great at both. But I would say definitely prioritize the GPA first, because you don't want to end up with a 3.2 or 3.1 or 2.9. But to say, hey, I did a great job at my internship, well, guess what? You may not be able to land another internship with that. So just be careful. Hey, everybody. Hey, Pablo. Mark asks, is University of Miami a semi-target? Mark, if you join me on the YouTube live stream, I can show you. There's university statistics for investment banking. If you look in the company database, you go into resources, full company database, and you can go to you can go to resources, investment banking industry report, then go to university stats. You can look up University of Miami. Oh, whoops, this looks messed up. Let me log in. Sorry, you may have to see 5,000 tabs open, because that's how I roll. Now, let's see here. Resources. All right, here we go. Go here, investment banking report. Hopefully this isn't broken. I'll have to talk to the developers, but university stats. We actually just cleaned up a lot of these. There was some dupe schools and stuff. I don't think, well, just off the cuff, Miami is not a target school for sure. is it a semi-target? I would say UF is more from what, yeah. I mean, it's ranked 114th on the bulge brackets out of 115. It's a pretty big school. For other notable banks, I don't even know if I see it here. Where is it? 61st. So they get some placement at like Evercore, Houlihan, Lincoln, Piper, but not much. I mean, so it just depends what your definition of semi-target is. Sure, you could consider a very low semi-target, I guess, but no, it's not a great place if you want to go. It's specifically in a banking. I don't think it's a great place to go. I think UF does much better in terms of Florida schools. Is NYU Stern more competitive than University of Columbia? You mean Columbia University Business School? It depends if you're talking MBA. MBA, I'd say Columbia places better. NYU Stern undergrad versus Columbia undergrad. I'd say it's very close. Both place really well. Stern just has so many people gunning for finance that it tends to place pretty well. But Columbia is like right there in the top 5. So, I mean, the location, I would lean a little bit more towards going to Columbia just for the brand name and the recognition and the alum. But NYU definitely is geared towards finance, so you can't go wrong in terms of if you're sure you want to go there. Oh, MBA, definitely Columbia places better. For undergrad, it's a little more even. See, NYU's like ranked 2nd here and Columbia's 5th, but that doesn't mean Columbia doesn't place better. It just means I think you got to remember the number of people going into finance out of Columbia is targeting finance out of Columbia is much lower. So the fact that Columbia is even here with UPenn and NYU is pretty extraordinary. Same thing with Harvard. The fact that it's number 1 here is actually surprising to me, given it's a little bit smaller, and those are for the bulge brackets too, those numbers I gave you. So, hey, no problem, Adam. No problem. Let me pull up live stream here, YouTube. Nope, I'm getting a lot of calls. One sec. Decline that call. Sorry about that. I don't have anything on the calendar. I don't know why people are calling me. Hey, Pat, I was wondering, do you happen to know any reputable boutiques in Boston? I'm trying to find an internship freshman summer that can be leveraged for sophomore essay, junior essay. So, Daniel, if you're a freshman trying to get a freshman summer, you shouldn't be targeting reputable boutiques. You should be targeting any boutiques. It could be a complete horrible bank that has no deal flow, but if you get that internship, you take it, because it's just about stacking like relevant experience. So if it is an investment bank and you can say you did like some trading comps or transaction comps, that's a good freshman summer internship. So I think it's a mistake only to be targeting reputable boutiques. I would go to 2-man shops, 1-man shops, 1-woman shops, whatever you want to, wherever you can get a placement, just do it. Hey, Daisy, what are we doing? I don't know. You tell me. What are we doing? Thank you. You're looking good, too. I'm thinking I'm looking old. Got a lot of grace. So, yeah, everybody, I think I'm going to call it. It's been about half hour. Let's see. Oh, any bar recommendations for analysts in New York? Asking for a friend. Hey, Noah. Noah, I haven't lived in New York for like, what is it? 15 years. So yeah, I'm not the person to ask. But there's actually a funny thread on the site today talking about like if there was any like pool clubs like the Vegas. And they're like, does this even exist in New York? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it doesn't exist. Maybe it does. Maybe I haven't been in New York for a long time. But anyways, thanks everybody for joining. I will see you again next week, same time, same place. Thanks, everybody.